Hi, I'm Steve Bosdosh, Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher. Thanks for buying the Tour Angle 144. It's simply one of the most effective training aids I've ever seen, and I really want to help you get the most out of the product. And I'd like to start just working over the grip. What I'd like to do is have you take the stem and place the stem at the base of the fingers in between the two middle fingers, like so. And you can see there's a little grip channel right here. That's designed for the handle to fit right into it like that. So I've got the stem at the base of the fingers, in between the two middle ones. The handle fits in that grip channel. And the left thumb is going to end up going a little bit to the right of center. And I have the handle a little bit more in the fingers. You know, one of the more common errors that I see with flawed grips is that they're holding it too much in the palm. So what I'd like you to do, get the handle in the grip channel, and I want to have the thumb a little bit to the side of the handle. One of the things that I look for is that the left thumb fits right into the lifeline or the crease of the right palm. I should not be able to see the left thumb once the right hand is on there properly. One of the things that I do with a lot of my students actually to help that out, if you just take a couple of tees, I've got a green one and a pink one here because I like colors, and I'm just going to place a tee in between the thumb and the forefinger of both hands, just like this. So you should be able to hold it just like that. Now, when I'm gripping the club properly, what I'm looking for is that these tees are in line with each other. Now, as I'm looking at it, if the tees are in line with each other straight on top, I would call that a 12 o'clock position. To me, that's a bit of a weak grip, might produce a fade, maybe rob you of some distance. I'd like to see these tees angled off slightly to the right, what I would call maybe 1 o'clock. So that would be straight on top. I'd like them to get angled slightly off to the right. That would be what I call 1 o'clock, like that. Believe me, that's going to develop a much more consistent ball flight and a stronger ball flight. So as we go farther into the DVD, I think it's really going to become critical. So, we'll get rid of the tees there. I've got the handle and the grip channel. One of the things I really look for is that the hands are soft. I'll see this a lot where people get set up and they're really squeezing it to death and tight. You'll see a lot of tension in the forearms, the chest cavity, and the shoulders. Promotes lots of mischief in the golf swing. What I would like you to do is hold the handle in the fingers and then just gently move the grip and the club around like that. I'm looking for softness in the hands and the wrist joints and their forearms. One of the things that I like to see, I talk a lot about, is that the hands, wrists, and forearms, I like them to be soft, silky. I want them to kind of look rubbery as opposed to rigid and tight like that. Or I'll say I want them to look like cooked spaghetti, not uncooked, not brittle and uncooked. So that's going to be the way that I ask you to grip the club for every club. I would say a sand wedge all the way through the driver. Now, with the Tour Angle 144 set in there correctly, it's going to help promote perfect posture. And here's what I'd like you to do to help with the posture. As I'm standing up like this, I'm just gently going to flex my knees to where my knees cover my shoelaces. This is a little tip for you out there. That's going to get a little flex in the knees. I can't see my shoelaces. And then I'm going to ask you to stick your hips backwards or create your tilt from the hip socket. We're trying to keep the spine as straight as we can. A lot of times I'll see this with players. They'll keep their hips in and then they'll bend their spine like this. You get all kind of bad stuff happening from that. What I would like to see is the hips back, spine straight, chin up nice and high. When your spine is straight like that, it's going to allow the body to pivot around it in a much more consistent fashion. Now, if we have this set up correctly, like so, I'm bending down, I can't see my shoelaces, and then I'm going to tilt from the waist, try and keep my spine straight, let my arms hang down. The red arm of the Tour Angle 144 is just gently touching underneath the left forearm. So when I get set up correctly, this is what I love about the Tour Angle 144. It actually tells me if I'm set up properly or not. A lot of times I'll see this with players. You see how straight the angle is between the shaft and the arms? And then the indicator is up inside my forearm. Or sometimes I've seen this too, where the hands are too low and then you'll see this space. But if we get the red arm gently touching underneath the left forearm, you're in the perfect posture, and the Tour Angle 144 automatically sets you up in that posture. Okay, so we have the grip and we have nice posture. By the way, I'd like you to grip it the exact same way with the sand wedge, 6-iron, 8-iron, all the way up to the driver. And I'd also like the red arm touching the left forearm with every club. And that's really the beauty of the product, is that it simplifies the angle of the setup. The tilt would vary, of course, as we go to a shorter club or a longer club, but this angle of the forearms and the shaft remains the constant. And that's really the beauty of the product. So now we have I have a 6-iron here, but now we have the perfect setup. I've got a good grip, nice setup right here. Here's one of the things that I found out with all the students that I've been teaching. You know, there's no reason why the average golfer out there can't get set up perfectly, can't grip the club perfectly, and can't do a perfect one-piece takeaway. You know, what happens beyond that point certainly is a result of, you know, body styles, flexibility, inflexible. If a guy's stronger, less, you know, people with more talent are going to do better. But there's no reason why everybody can't learn to grip the club like a tour player. And now with the Tour Angle 144, there's absolutely no excuse for players not to set up perfectly like a tour player. And as we move into the swing, you know, we get into this one-piece takeaway. You know, I think for years that I've been teaching, if I could get people to set up correctly and start the club away correctly, I would say everybody is going to make better golf swings. You don't have to think once you're into your actual golf swing. Just use your athleticism and your instincts to hit it. But you're going to shoot lower scores, and ultimately, actually, you're going to enjoy the game more, and you're going to play more golf, have more fun. So let's work hard on a proper grip. Okay, I don't want to get too tight. Nice and soft and supple. And let's work hard on this perfect posture here that we have. Now the red arm is gently touching underneath. Now the beauty of the Tour Angle 144 is if I feel it leave my wrist or leave the forearm, I know that I'm not doing a one-piece takeaway. The one-piece takeaway is critical. If I'm using my hands and my wrist early in the swing, I'm just going to use them more and more as I get into the downswing to fix and correct flaws. What you'll find with most of the tour players is that they're taking a club, you know, whatever club they're using, they're taking it away more with their chest, their lats, all the upper part of the body in one unit like this. And what I see unfortunately with most of the players here on the range is something like this, where the club head is moving because the hands are moving it. And then you run into all kinds of mischief later in the swing. Does not promote, you know, a big pivot with your body. You end up getting these typically a weak high slice to the right. So we've got a good grip, we've got perfect posture. And now I'm just going to do some practice swings, keeping the red arm touching underneath the left forearm. I would like to see it stay touching until the arms and the shaft get level to the ground. If you do this, you're now using the core of your body, you're using the chest, the shoulders, you're using your stomach and the lats, all in one unit for a one-piece takeaway. If you find, you know, don't worry, if you find that the red arm is leaving your left forearm like that, we're just going to work on the takeaway. And let's see if you can feel it touching. Now I can actually feel that in my lat and my back because I'm using more of my body. And I want to keep it touching like that until about the arms and the club get about level to the ground. You know, that's as simple as you can make the takeaway. Now here's one of the drills that I'd like you to actually experiment with, which I think will help you a lot. You know, if you get out to the range and you get to hitting some balls. I do most of my teaching with certainly about a 6 or 7 iron. I also like to do most of my teaching with the ball on a tee. But if you take a water bottle, you can use a golf ball too, but this is just one of my favorite ways to promote a one-piece takeaway. And I'm just going to put it in there behind the club head. I've got about a half a bottle of water, otherwise the wind will blow it away. And I'm going to get myself set up here. And again, if I can feel the red indicator or the red arm staying underneath, touching the left forearm, I should be able to push the water bottle away and then keep swinging and hit the ball. What you'll find, and I've done this and I've seen people do it, if the red arm leaves the left forearm, you'll end up picking the club up with your hands and your wrists, and then watch what happens. As I go down to swing, the bottle's going to be in the way. Most of you may end up getting wet, actually. So just see if you could practice this. You don't have to hit balls at first with it. Let's keep the red arm of the Tour Angle 144 touching underneath, and just push it away and see if you can push it out of the way and actually get down to hit the golf ball. So now we've got you with a pretty good grip. We've got certainly perfect posture. We're training, we're practicing this one-piece takeaway, one unit takeaway, until we get to where the arms and the club are about level to the ground. That's as simple as we can make the golf swing. There is no reason why every golfer out there cannot do these three things: the grip, perfect posture, and that one-piece takeaway. The rest of it, I don't want you thinking so much. Unfortunately, I think we get into this, connect the dots, okay, hit the golf ball type of golf swing. I want the golf swing to be, the golf swing's dynamic. I want it to be athletic. I don't want you thinking a whole lot while you're actually swinging. I'm sure many of you watching this have experienced this. The more we think on the golf course, the worse we get. I know it's the case for me, and it's the case for most of my students. And if we ask you, when you've played your best golf, what were you thinking? Most of you probably weren't thinking anything. But you can work on the grip, the setup, and the takeaway, and then just let it go. Now, the beauty of the Tour Angle 144 is that it also teaches what I think may be the single most flaw, the biggest flaw that I've seen with golfers consistently, is what we call casting. I'm sure many of you have heard that term. Maybe some of you really aren't sure what that means. Casting is nothing more, than the uncocking of the wrists as the player starts down. Let me explain why that's so bad. Unfortunately, good players actually retain the wrist angle where the handle's out in front over the left leg before the club head strikes the golf ball. So what they're actually doing is they're actually hitting down on the golf ball. So that would take, in effect, my 6-iron, and that would actually de-loft it and make it like a 5-iron. That's why really top players can swing easy and make the ball go pretty far, because they may have a 6-iron at the start, and then at impact it may actually have the dynamic loft of a 5-iron. 5-iron goes farther than a 6-iron. Unfortunately, most of the golfers in the country, they'll do this casting or uncocking of the club very early in the downswing, so that by the time it gets to impact, they've taken the 6-iron and they've actually made it a 7 or 8-iron. They're actually adding loft as they go through the golf ball. Sometimes we call that scooping. Often it leads to what I would call ball or the divot, then the golf ball contact, or just all ball contact, when really good players hit ball divot because they're hitting down on it. So with the Tour Angle 144, we've got this one unit, one-piece takeaway, and then it's going to break away from me. It should. If you feel it stay touching against the left forearm later in the swing, then you're going to need to be more sensitive to feeling the wrists hinge the club a little bit more. And that sets us up for this powerful downswing. Now, if you're casting, you're going to feel the red arm actually make contact with your left forearm, certainly well before the impact. That's also tends to be the maximum speed of the club head. I don't want the fastest point of your swing to be prior to impact. I'd like it to be actually at impact, or maybe even beyond impact. So let's walk through this slowly. One piece, I feel it leave my wrist here because I'm hinging the club. And then I'm going to try and do some false down swings or rehearsal swings. And you notice that the red arm is not touching my left forearm. And as I do that, I can feel my feet moving a little bit. I feel my ankles and my weight moving a little bit. And this is the thing I really like about this. I mean, you can actually hit golf balls, and if you feel it touch the left forearm before you get the impact, you're doing it wrong. You don't need anybody standing there telling you, or you don't need to see it on video. So I'll give you another little tip I think may help with this setting of the club and the casting. I'm just going to take a tee. I have pink because I like pink. I'm putting a tee in the little hole of the grip. Doesn't hurt anything. And then there's my perfect grip. Again, with the posture, if I stand straight, just break my knees to cover the shoelaces and then create my tilt. There's my one-piece takeaway. And when I hinge it, you can see that the tee is pointed down at the ground. And then I'm going to try and retain that feeling on the downswing and make the tee point down to the golf ball and then hit it. One of the things, the drills that I use for casting, it's actually kind of fun. If you take two tees, I've got green, and I'm going to put this about 2 or 3 inches behind, and I'm going to push it down. And I'm going to put another one about 2 or 3 inches in front. I'm going to leave it sitting up just a little bit. That helps me. And to feel a proper downswing, I'm going to feel the club swing down over the back tee. Try to hit the golf ball and drive it into the front tee. So if I do this properly, I'm going to do it with just 1/2 to 3/4 motions. I'm trying to take a divot in front of the golf ball. All good players, by the way, hit ball divot. So I'm going to do a little half swing. And I miss the back tee and I hit the front tee. And you do that on little 1/2 to 3/4 swings until you get the feeling of retaining this angle down into the swing. And then watch what happens. You see what this swing looks like back here. The wrists have set the club, and you can see how the tee is pointed down at the ground. And then I'm going to make some soft rehearsal strokes, and I'm going to feel the tee point down the target line. And I certainly am not sensing or feeling that the red arm is touching the back of my left wrist until I get down to the impact area. Now watch what happens. As I keep rotating through and rehinge the club up with my wrists, you see how the tee points back down at the target line. This is a mirror image of what we had on the backswing. I'm trying to make this swing as symmetrical as I can. I'll often see something like this back here, and then on the follow-through, this is a very, very common follow-through. I can actually still feel the red arm of the Tour Angle 144 touching the back of the left wrist. The tee is nowhere near back at the ground. So here's the back, down. That's what they call releasing the club freely. And if you can hit some balls like that, you know, halfway back, halfway through, I feel the chest and the arms and the shoulders, everything turning back. It's a rotation and then a hinge. Nice rotation and hinge. And then I'm going to try and have the red arm touch down around impact, over and rehinge it. And you can hit little half, you know, I got a 6-iron. Maybe we can hit this maybe 100 yards. And I got ball divot. I'm looking for a couple of things. I can certainly feel that I got ball divot. You know, I'm looking for this position on the follow through, match this one up. And then if it's synchronized, I should have, I should have gotten a pretty nice ball flight on that. I got solid contact. I hit a pretty straight shot. And of course, you can't see that, but I hit it reasonably straight. And that's sort of the little swings we're looking for I mean, certainly if you can't do it, properly in a little swing like that, it would be unreasonable to expect us to do it in a bigger swing. But if we can get you to hit good shots like that, halfway back, halfway through, I would expect that you could do it in the full swing. Nice and soft. That's why you see really good players moving around. There's, I'll tell you, the higher the handicapper, I see this. I see them looking at the golf ball longer, glance at the target, and then go back to the golf ball and not move. The better the player, they look at the target longer than the golf ball. They're focusing on the target. They go back to the ball and focus back on the target, and they're always moving. Just like, kind of like a Major League Baseball player. He's standing in there ready to receive the pitch. He's always moving around. I don't want tension to develop in the golf swing. So we're going to do that halfway back, halfway through. I got ball divot, hit pretty solid contact. It didn't go perfectly straight. It curved a little bit to the right, but that would, to me, would be a success. I brought you down here to the chipping green to show you one of the things that I really love about the Tour Angle 144. Not only is it very effective for the full swing, it is, I got to tell you, it's outstanding for the short game, especially for chipping. There are a lot of you out there that have something called the chipping yips. You're not proud of having them. A lot of people don't even want to talk about them. If you don't have them, be glad. But I got to tell you, this product will fix the chipping yips. We're going to get you set up, same grip that we did with the full swing, and I want to get the red arm resting against the left forearm, and we're going to make little motions back and through, just brushing the grass. Now I want you to key in on this. When you're making these little motions, I can actually feel my whole body moving a little bit back and through. I'm not using my hands or my wrists. All kinds of mischief happen when that occurs. So the red arm is touching underneath the left forearm, back and through, and I can actually feel and hear the club head brushing the grass. So we're going to make a couple of little adjustments with the setup from the full swing. I'm going to stand very narrow. I'm going to put the ball about in the middle of my stance. My left foot can be pulled back just a little bit. And I'm going to position maybe, let's say 60% of my weight on the left side. And then I'm going to focus on feeling the red arm stay touching underneath the left forearm, back and through. Now I don't care what club you chip with. I'm chipping this with a sand wedge. And I'm going to keep that touching. And as long as it stays touching throughout the stroke, I got to tell you, it's a foolproof motion. And look, you can do this. I teach chipping basically with a couple of different clubs, but you could do it, I did it with a sand wedge, you could do it with a 7-iron. And what's going to happen? We're going to produce a lower trajectory that's going to roll a little bit more. But I can hear the club brushing the grass, I can feel it brushing the grass, and I'm just going to brush the golf ball off the grass. I mean, no matter what club you do it with, it's going to be the same motion. I've got a 9-iron. And I would alter the clubs that you chip with, based upon, how far the flag is from the front of the green. If the pin is up front, I might do it with a sand wedge. If it's way back, I might do it with a 7-iron. But, if I had a drill or a tip for chipping, I would probably give it to you now like I did the others, but I got to tell you, this Tour Angle 144 does it all by itself. If you keep it touching up against your left forearm, the motion is foolproof. I promise you, you're going to become a better chipper. I've been teaching my whole life, over 25 years. The Tour Angle 144 is one of the simplest, most effective training aids that I've ever seen. You're going to love it. It certainly helps with the setup, promoting perfect posture, a one-piece takeaway, really gives great feedback for the casting or hanging onto the angle like we want, delaying it, and it's even better for the chipping. So thanks for buying the Tour Angle 144. I'm Steve Bosdosh, Golf Magazine, Top 100 Teacher.